In the summer of 1981, a mafia captain gave away his rings, handed a friend the keys to his apartment, asked him to feed the pigeons he kept on the roof, and then went to the meeting that he knew would be his last. He didn't run, he didn't hide. He attended his own funeral. I'm not going to tell you his name yet. He's number one on this list because of these 8 men. His death wasn't even the worst. And he's the only one who never told the government a single thing. Because here's what nobody wants to acknowledge about the rat. The street has exactly one unbreakable law. You talk, you die. Simple, clean, except it was never actually about whether you talked. It was about whether they believed you did. And on this list, that difference is the whole story. Men who died mid-cooperation, men who died under armed guard, and men who died for rumors that were never true. So let's talk about 8 snitches who got the worst deaths. And we start on a quiet street in San Francisco with the first man the government ever promised to protect. Number 8, Joe the Animal Barboza, New England. Start with the nickname because he earned it the hard way. In a nightclub brawl, Barboza bit a piece of a man's cheek clean off. That was the enforcer the patriarchal crime family kept on his payroll, a boxer turned contract killer, one of the most feared men in Boston. And when the family crossed him, stealing his bail money and killing his friends while he sat in a cell, the animal turned. He turned all the way. Barboza testified against Raymond Patriarca himself, the boss of all New England, and helped put him in a federal prison. Testimony like that had never happened before, and the government knew what it was worth, so they built something new to keep him alive. Joe Barboza became one of the very first men ever placed in the Federal Witness Protection Program. New name, new life, a promise in writing that the government could hide a man from the mafia forever. Here's how that promise held up. On February 11th, 1976, Barboza walked out of an apartment in San Francisco, visiting a man he considered a friend. The friend had tipped off the hitman. Barboza made it a few steps before 4 shotgun blasts hit him at close range. He was dead in the street, 3,000 miles from Boston, in the middle of the new identity that was supposed to make him unfindable. The program didn't fail on paperwork. It failed on the one thing no program can screen for. The animal trusted somebody, and it only takes one. Number 7, Adolfo Big Al Bruno, Springfield, Massachusetts. Big Al Bruno ran the Genovese family's Springfield operation the old way. Sunday night card games at the social club, everything handled quietly. And on November 23, 2003, he walked out of that card game into the parking lot, and a gunman was waiting. 5 shots. The boss of Springfield, dead outside his own club. Now, here's the part that puts him on this list. Why was he killed? Not for testifying, not for wearing a wire. A government memo, a routine court document, mentioned that Bruno had once spoken with an FBI agent. That piece of paper started circulating in mob circles, passed hand to hand like evidence, and in the whisper network it hardened into fact. Big Al is talking. Authorities disputed that he was cooperating at all. Didn't matter. The memo was the verdict. Men below him who wanted him gone finally had their excuse, and the paperwork became a death warrant that no court ever signed. Big Al Bruno was killed by a rumor with a government letterhead. And one more thing before we move on. The man who arranged that hit, the Springfield enforcer who set it up and got life in prison for it, was named Freddie Giash. Remember that name. It's coming back. Number 6, Frank Bomp Bompensiero, San Diego, California. By the 1970s, Bompensiero was one of the highest-ranking mafiosi on the West Coast, a made man since the 30s, a former capo, a killer with a resume. And for roughly a decade, he was also feeding information to the FBI. 10 years of double life, and he survived it by being the most careful man in the mob. Careful like this, Bompensiero was convinced his home phone was tapped. So every single night he walked from his apartment in Pacific Beach to a public payphone down the street to make his calls. Same walk, same booth. Every night the phone was clean. Nobody could listen in, and that was the mistake, because a man who uses a different phone to stay unpredictable has just made himself perfectly predictable. On the night of February 10th, 1977, Bompensiero finished his call, stepped away from the booth, and a gunman was waiting exactly where a gunman would always know to wait. 4 shots to the head, feet from the phone he trusted. 10 years of surveillance paranoia, defeated by a daily routine. The line was secure. The walk was the leak. Number 5. Whitey Bulger, Boston, Massachusetts. The most famous informant in American history. For years, Bulger ran the Winter Hill Gang, extortion, trafficking, and hitmen, while secretly working as an FBI informant, using the Bureau to wipe out his rivals while his handlers buried the warnings. Then 16 years as a fugitive, capture in Santa Monica, convictions tied to 11 murders, and life in federal prison. The system finally had him, which means the system was now responsible for keeping him alive. Hold that thought. On October 29, 2018, the Bureau of Prisons transferred Bulger to USP Hazleton in West Virginia, a violent, understaffed penitentiary the inmates call Misery Mountain. He was 89 years old and in a wheelchair, and instead of protective custody, the most famous rat in America was placed into a general population in a prison holding, among others, organized crime figures from Massachusetts. He didn't survive the first morning. Within hours of arriving, Bulger was found beaten to death in his cell, and the reported suspect remembered the name Freddie Gia, the same Springfield enforcer serving life for the Big Al Bruno hit 3 entries ago. A man who, in the words of a private investigator who knew him, hated rats. Gaius killed a boss over a rumor of talking. Now the government had wheeled the most famous talker in American history straight to him. Nobody has ever adequately explained the transfer. Why that prison? Why general population? Why the paperwork moved a wheelchair-bound 89-year-old informant into arm's reach of the exact men sworn to kill him? Bulger spent a lifetime beating the system from the inside. The system delivered him door to door. Number 4. Abe Reles, Coney Island, New York. Go back to 1941 and understand who this man was. Abe Reles was one of the deadliest killers in Murder Incorporated, the mob's contract killing machine, with a body count estimated in the dozens. And when he flipped like nobody before him. His memory was photographic. His testimony was devastating. Several of his former partners went to the electric chair on his word. Next up, Albert Anastasia, the boss. The head of Murder Incorporated itself. Reles was the whole case and everyone knew it, which is why the state took no chances. They put him in the Half Moon Hotel on Coney Island, 6th floor, and posted a detail of 6 police detectives guarding him around the clock. 6 guards, 1 witness, the most protected man in New York. On the morning of November 12, 1941, hours before he was set to testify against Anastasia, Abe Reles went out the window. His body was found on a roof extension below, next to knotted bed sheets tied to a length of wire. The official ruling: an accident, a failed escape attempt. A star witness, hours from the stand, shimmying down bed sheets for no reason anyone could name, while 6 detectives noticed nothing. Almost nobody believed it then, and almost nobody believes it now. The press gave him the nickname that made him immortal: the canary who could sing but couldn't fly. The case against Anastasia died on that rooftop, and Anastasia walked. Abe Reles is the only man on this list who was murdered inside police protection, with the protection standing right there. Number 3. Barry Seal, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Barry Seal was the best smuggler the meddling cartel ever had, a former TWA pilot flying cocaine into the United States by the ton. And when the DEA finally turned him, he became what prosecutors called the most important witness in the agency's history. He flew a sting for the government and came back with photographs implicating the cartel's leadership. Seal's testimony could reach Jorge Ochoa. It could reach Pablo Escobar. There may have been no man alive the cartel wanted dead more. Now watch what the American justice system did with him. At sentencing in 1986, a federal judge gave Seal probation with a condition. He was ordered to report to a Salvation Army halfway house in Baton Rouge and be there every night, same address, same schedule. Court ordered, and the judge forbade him from carrying a gun or surrounding himself with armed protection. Read that back. The cartel's most dangerous enemy and a United States court order told his killers where he would be, at what time, every single night, unarmed. The cartel didn't need to hunt Barry Seal. They needed a calendar. On the evening of February 19, 1986, Seal pulled his white Cadillac into the halfway house parking lot right on schedule. A Colombian hit team was waiting with a machine gun. 6 rounds, chest, neck, head. He never got out of the car. The most important witness in DEA history, converted by his own government into a stationary target. Quick one before the top 2. If you're getting something out of this, the subscribe button is free, and it's the entire reason these keep getting made. Done. Now, the top 2. And this is where the killing stopped being about silence and start being about the message. Number 2, Bruno Facciola, Brooklyn, New York. In 1990, the Luquista family got a tip from inside law enforcement, from corrupt detectives selling secrets to the mob, that one of their own soldiers, Bruno Facciola, had turned informant. That tip was a death sentence, and the family decided his death should double as a memo. Facciola was lured to an auto body shop in Brooklyn. What was done to him there was methodical, and then his killers added the detail this entry is here for. They took a canary and stuffed it into his mouth and left him in the trunk of his own car for the neighborhood to find. A canary in the mouth, the oldest symbol the underworld has. This is what happens to birds who sing. Nobody who heard about it needed it explained. It wasn't a murder, it was a billboard. And now the reversal that makes this the second worst death on the list. By nearly every account that's surfaced since, Bruno Facciola wasn't an informant. The tip was wrong. The detectives were selling garbage and the family bought it. He was tortured, executed, and turned into a warning about betrayal for a betrayal that, in all likelihood, never happened. The message was written in the blood of a man who had nothing to confess. And on the street, it didn't matter. The billboard worked either way. And number 1 is Sonny Black, Dominic Napolitano, New York City. The man from the cold open. The captain who gave away his rings and went to the meeting anyway. And here's the twist this whole list has been building to. Sonny Black never spoke to the government in his life. He wasn't the canary, he just vouched for one. Sonny Black was a rising capo in the Bonanno family, running his crew out of a Brooklyn social club, tending his pigeons on the roof. And his best earner, the guy he trusted, mentored, and put up for membership in the family, was a jewel thief named Donnie Brasco. For 6 years, Donnie was beside him. Sonny loved him like a brother and staked his own name on him. In July of 1981, FBI agents paid a visit to the Bonanno leadership and put a photograph on the table. Donnie Brasco was Special Agent Joseph Pistone, 6 years undercover, the deepest penetration of the American Mafia ever achieved, walked through the front door on Sonny Black's handshake. In the life, that handshake has a price, and Sonny knew the price immediately. He didn't run, he didn't flip. The FBI reportedly gave him the chance, and he turned it down. He handed out his valuables, asked a friend to feed the pigeons, and went to the meeting. He was sent down a set of basement stairs and shot. His body wasn't found for a year, and when it was, the detail came back that made him a legend. His hands had been removed. The symbol, as the street read it, was exact for the handshake that led an agent in.